And the word empowering has a pun on it, and we're talking in terms of power, in terms of empowering as in power, electrical power. And that's why the title that has been selected. I must also share with you that right outside, as you enter, you may have noticed a standee about promoting hydro conference, hydropower. Actually, it was supposed to be a conference for Northeast India, but then everybody suggested that we should have it in Delhi so that we could get all those NGOs and all the other guys who oppose hydro projects also to come on board. So I just wanted to share with you at the outset that this is a series of conferences that we are doing connected to, inspired by, for the Northeast. So that's the spirit of these conferences. The other thing I'd like to share with you is that till last Sunday, we were in Myanmar, and I was speaking at a conference in Yangon last week, and we also had the pleasure and honor to meet some of our neighbors, the neighboring states of Sagaing and the Rohingya state, and of course the Chile state, members of parliament and important players. And we were discussing seriously the potential for interchange of power between Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram and Myanmar, neighboring states. There was a lot of excitement, there was a lot of interest, and we're eagerly looking forward to working out ways and means where this can happen. So that's the other context in which I think it's pretty important that we start getting our act together. In that context, we also had discussions on the potential for the 4 or 5 projects which are the Indo-Myanmar collaborations on hydropower, the transmission line for which a credit line has been set up by the government of India, I think over $160 million, the hydro projects which are on the borders of Mizoram and Myanmar and Manipur and a couple of other states as we go up, and how that can be financed, set up, and the mechanics of it, although progress has been slow. Let me also share with you a small picture so you will begin to understand the significance, the growing significance of the Northeast and particularly of Mizoram. I'm chairing a subgroup on the advisory group to the Prime Minister of India on transmission. You will have to work with the local sensitivities. You have to work with those people because it's their area, their town, or their village, or their environment. So it has to be very much inclusive. Now, some of the benefits are job creation for the locals, for metering, disbursal, collection of bills if you are charging money. Incentives, franchising, fees on collections, profit sharing and revenues accruing to the government. So these are 2 revenue streams where the village council gets a piece of the action. So for them, they want to see the bottom line. Okay, what are we getting out of it? Can we get extra money for roads? Can we get money for health? Can we get extra money for education? Etc. Then there's a job creation for those who are collecting agro waste, for loading and unloading, and of course for transportation. From our personal experience, we found that a small 4-5 megawatt biomass plant generates about 40-50 jobs around the clock. It generates approximately 400 to 500, 10 times more indirect jobs. They're not full-time, but they generate cash in the village economy. So that's pretty interesting. And then you look at the fact that the supply, it goes into the, if it's linked, it goes into the state utility as banked energy. And then you can supply it outside wherever you want. So basically, the DBG plant injects 50,000 units of power from the biomass into the rural grid on behalf of the DISCOM, the top blurb. And then the DISCOM validates the quantum of injection and issues an electricity credit note. We are proposing an ECN as an idea for 50,000 units. It collects electricity charges from consumers, or it doesn't collect, that's their problem. I mean, we don't get involved in the local sensitivities, you know, he didn't pay, he paid, all of those issues. We're doing this on behalf of the utility in whose licensed area we are operating. Issuance of 50 RECs by NLDC, SLDC. We are also saying, let's monetize this. Let's make it attractive for the developers, for the equipment suppliers, without affecting the local economy. This is very important to understand how we have planned this out. So we are suggesting to the regulators that they should give this interchangeability with renewable energy certificates or something similar which can be traded on the exchanges, and therefore we give a little extra money to the project developer as well. 50,000 units of power are scheduled by the SLDC against the DGG ESNs. DGG plant receives revenue from one, sale of power bilaterally or through the power exchange to consumers anywhere in the country. It's not necessary I have to generate this power or this credit and then collect it from the Mizoram customer. I can collect from the Mumbai customer. I can collect from the Delhi customer. And why I say that is, let's get practical, because those guys have no paying power. They have the capacity to pay a higher premium for these things. So they may pay you get you a higher revenue, which makes you more viable. There's no point setting up a project which is not viable in the long run. Second is the sale of the RECs in the power exchange. This is already there. Mr. Raja just before he demitted his office actually put serious penalties on the utilities in Maharashtra who were not complying with REC, their renewable energy obligation, their RP obligations, and now they have to fulfill 4 years or 3 years or whatever it is of their obligations in one shot before 31st March. All of a sudden, there's a lot of excitement that this market, which is dead, is now waking up, and everyone's trying to get RECs to fulfill their requirements. So we're suggesting the ECNs can be linked to that with the help of the regulators, and you can monetize this market, which will then make this project sitting in a rural part of the country viable, attractive, and money will actually flow into the villages through these inclusive type of projects. Okay, so how do we make this happen? What do we need? We need arrangement with the state utility. I hope Benjamin will appreciate and support such projects. Banking of surplus capacity electricity, wheeling of banked electricity, and scheduling of power. To our mind, the utility is nothing different from the State Bank of India in this concept. You put your money in, it is safe, it gives you a credit in your passport. And whenever you want to take your money out, you can go and say, sir, I want to make a demand draft for so much in the name of so-and-so person. I want to have this much electricity sent off to Delhi or to Mumbai or to Chennai or to Hyderabad. So please allow me. He says, okay, done. He says, but I'm going to charge you handling charges, like a bank will charge for a demand draft. The same thing the utility will charge. Now what the utility has done is the following. He's not invested in the power plant, no capital cost. The power plant has been set up by somebody totally different. It is his consumers are satisfied with the 24 hours power supply because the plant is sitting right there. So it's eased his troubles to that extent. Third is tail end generation in most cases. So the voltage is improved, his grid gets a little more stability if he's grid connected. The fourth advantage he gets is the fact that he has no financial outflow. In fact, he only makes money because somebody has supplied offline or whatever, and then he gives a credit, but he charges in terms of energy. So if it's 100 units, 100 electricity units, he will say, okay, I'll allow you 95 or 98. I'll keep 2% or 3% as my charges. So he makes extra money in terms of energy. Okay. Now he can go and collect the tariff from his consumer. We have nothing to do with it. The arrangements with the state nodal agency, SLDC and LDC for accreditation, authentication, and issuance of RECs. This is again very important because we are looking at support from the local energy development agencies like ZEDA and the others in the other states in the northeast, where they will support this kind of project and push for it so that the central regulators and others also appreciate. Now there's a provision for tariff differential subsidy, capital subsidy ensuring viability and sustainability of pilot scheme may be considered. But this is something which, I don't know how many of you know this, but the Northeast is struggling with resources. Because there's so much work to be done and there's so much resources, so little resources available. But this is something we can take advantage of because the government of India has got some big schemes now for such projects. And one of them is the Rajiv Gandhi Gramin Dinitikaran Yojana. What we are suggesting is, and here again, both MNRE and MOP have a role to play. And I wouldn't say it's conflicting in any way, in fact, it's going to support each other. So DDG uses non-conventional fuel sources, biomass, biofuel, biogas, extending DDGs to areas where grid power availability is inadequate. So these are some of the points that have come up with the new amendments to the draft. This was not there before. And so creating a policy and rate for energy storage to meet peaking, well, that is something which, this is something we can also look at where in winter months, some of the northeastern states feel shortage of power. And this kind of projects can help meeting that power requirement when they have a shortage in getting their central allocation. So what's the way ahead? Step one, creating a policy framework at the central and state levels, a lot of biomass-based initiatives. This is, the bosses are here, MNRE is here, and MOP is represented. Step two is involving all stakeholders, especially village council, bamboo development boards, and everybody else in the Northeast. To come on board, we need to have a series of workshops and education programs, get them on board quickly. To identify pilot schemes and invite private sector participate in the initiative. My people, when we have an office upstairs, and when we do brainstorming, our vision is to have at least 4 such projects in each district in Mizoram. At least 4, if not more. And we are hoping that we can target that as we very quickly. To coordinate with various agencies to facilitate financing, fuel supply arrangements, PPAs, ECNs, REC creation, and project support of the central and state government. So I think the policy maker needs to be on board first, and then the regulators. Step 5, to prepare standard templates for power purchasing bids. I think we don't need to go around reinventing it every time. Let's have a standard quickly, get everyone on board, interview local councils, and then get on with it. So usage of state utility transmission and distribution, we need to have the utilities with us, and they must see this as a beneficial thing for them. Otherwise, the utilities, there's no point. They should look upon this as something which is against their interest. It's not. It's for their interest. Strictly enforceable protocol for sale of surplus power to third-party consumers using local grid. To support the village councils with project support guidance to ensure speedy implementation. We had little experience in 1 or 2 organizations. One is Sri Ravi Shankar's outfit. We had collected all the panchayats together in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, and Andhra Pradesh in Bangalore. We had a 2-day convention. Mr. Dattarai was there. We found people getting very excited about these projects. Because they all wanted to have 24/7 electricity. So we were really excited about it. But then at that time, these schemes were not fitting into this. This was about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. So we've done a tests on this with village councils. They get very excited about it. I think our office here also did something with the village councils here, if I'm not wrong. Yeah? You had people from all the districts. How many people did you have?
We had around 30.
30 people?
Yeah.
From all over?
Just Mamit district and Aizol.
Mamit?
And Aizol.
Okay, Mamit and Aizol. So we need to go to the others as well. Fine. So we found the results pretty interesting. Mamit, because we found a lot more sawdust and extra wood waste. Single window clearance to facilitate financial closure of these projects along with the Ministry of Panchayat Development and MNRE. Okay. Now, what are the financial benefits? I've dealt with it before, just run through it. And then you can sort of formulate your thoughts. Now, the earnings for state utility and agencies export to surplus power. Transmission wheeling charges, they get a fee. Facilitating power transaction, they get a fee. What does the private sector get? They get international investments in DDG transmission distribution. A whole bunch of funding lines available for such projects. Maybe at grants, maybe as loans, maybe as subsidies. Low cost power available for state to build a sophisticated industrial and services economy. The point is, how do we employment generate in every state? And this is a great idea. We need to not only just set up manufacturing, but also services. For services, you need 24/7 quality power. Cascading benefits of increase in employment, education, health, sanitation using low cost electricity. Benefits to local communities. Address the total energy demand of a village based on local resources with energy production, distribution, and involvement of local communities. Business and employment potential. Direct employment of nearly 50 people in areas of fuel logistics and plant operations. Indirect employment of nearly 500 people, starting from small retailers to tea, food stalls, buildings, and maintaining roads, transport service, to plant and personnel requirements, accommodation, local accommodation, water, health, food, shopping. So we give a golden share. It's available to village council and church for local infrastructure and skill development. And best part. Thank you.